Hey guys, welcome back to the session RPA. Let's explore. So, guys, in today's video session, we learn about the RE framework. What is RE framework exactly, and how it's work? What are the advantages? Then, what are the components available in the RE framework? And few of the global variables which is available in the main XAML. So, let's start about the RE framework. So, RE framework is basically a template which is available in the UiPath Studio that built using the machine state layout. If you open your studio, here is a robotic enterprise framework available. You need to click on this, just create, and if you open this main XAML, you able to see this machine state layout, right? So it provides an excellent exception handling mechanism, then retrying of failed transactions, application recovery, and the ability to stop the process where continuing to run the bot does more harm than good. This RE framework is provide us the exception handling. Means if any exception occur during the process execution, that should be handled by the it also process the new transaction, and if in case any transaction is gate failed, it will retry again that transactions. Then it enables you to put the external setting in the config file. If you go to the RE framework and if you open the project folder, they provide us the config file. If you open the data folder, and here is a config file. So by using this config file, we can able to put our value here, right? Like queue name, then folder path, then URL path, application path. You can put your value as per your process requirement, right? And there are total three sheets available in the config file: setting, constant, and assets. So max retry number you can give any as per your wish. So if any transaction get fail, it will automatically increase the number to get transaction back, right? So in this way, this config file is very useful. Then it also send those logs to the orchestrator for the safekeeping. So it provides us log as well for each and every transactions. RE framework provides you is a simplicity and easy when automatic with the event logging for exception and logging around all the relevant transaction information. So this RE framework is very useful when your transaction is get failed. It provides us the screenshot in that moment, also a particular log file which is kept in the orchestrator. So this is all about the RE framework. Then what are the advantages? As I told you, it provides us logging, exception logging mechanism to monitor the process and the error handling, so that we'll get understand what is exactly error and how we can handle it. Then scalability, it ability to retry a failed transaction multiple times and send the exception notification. In the config file, there is a sheet that I already told you, max retry number. So it will retry the failed transaction multiple times and we'll get the notification as well. Then consistency, variable assets, orchestrator settings are consistent across the RE framework and will be easy to understand, and the code standard will allow for the more painless handover to the different developer. So it provides consistency as well. Then reusability. It work with any kind of process, and business logic code is separated from other aspect of the RE framework, right? Then error screenshot. It provides a screenshot as well while the error is occur. So these are the few advantages of RE framework. So let's move to the component of RE framework. If you see this the RE framework diagram, here are the few state available, like initialization state. get transaction data state, process transaction state, and the end process state. So we'll see one by one what exactly it is and how it is executed during the process runtime execution. So this is our main XAML. If you open the studio, this is our main XAML, right? And if you open this RE framework, in the initialization state, it will read the configuration file and initialize application used in the process. As I told you, in the project folder, there is a configuration file available. So we have to provide few of the things in the config file, right? Like folder path, then a particular URL if you are working with any URL, then file path if you're working with any file. So you can put over there in the config file. And if you open this initialization state, there is a three XAMLs available to particular total. Then initialize all settings XAML, kill all process XAML, initialize all applications XAML. So these all XAMLs is help us to initialize all settings and initialize all your application. It help us to get open the application. Right? This is the argument that is in config file, config sheets, and out config file. Right? So data type is string, string of array, and the dictionary, dictionary, which is the value is available in the string object, value and pair. So basically function of the initialization state to initialize all your settings and open your application successfully. Then if you go, there are two outcome of the this initialization state. One is successful and second is system exception. If the your application and all settings get initialized successfully, it will move to the next state, that is get transaction data state. And if there is an system exception occur, it will directly end your process. It will kill all the process, right? Then we'll move to the get transaction data. Get transaction data, in this state get transaction data XAML is available. The main purpose of this get transaction data is get data from the spreadsheet, database, emails, web API, or the UiPath server queue. And if there is no new data, it will set out transaction item is to nothing. So there are few things available in the get transaction data. If you open this get transaction data state, if you see this get transaction data XAML, right? And if you open this workflow, you able to see this is get a transaction item from the specified orchestrator queue. And if queue is not used in this process, replace this activity with the appropriate logic to retrieve the transaction item. Right? And these are the few argument that is used in the get transaction data. Right? That is transaction number, config file, transactions item, then transaction field 1, field 2, transaction ID, and transaction data. And every has the different data type. And direction is in, out. Right? So this argument is passed to the main XAML while process is executing. So it has total two outcome. One is new transaction and there is a no data. We have obtained new transaction data in the transaction item variable and we have to move to the process transaction state. And if the transaction item is nothing, then we have to end our process, right? So if you move to the next state, that is process transaction data. So process transaction data, this is the heart of RE framework. Our process is executed in the process YAML workflow. So total these YAMLs available in the process state, that is process YAML, then set transaction status, take screenshot, close all applications and kill all process. So these set transaction status is very important because it will handle the log of process YAML, then a retry mechanism, then exception handling. All these things is handled by this XAML. So we'll see how. If you open this process transaction state, this process XAML, it includes our actual process execution. You can invoke your required workflow here, and here is business rule exception, right? And this is set transaction status workflow. I'm opening this workflow. So to set transaction status, this is the main XAML in this process transaction state because it handle a new transaction or if any business rule exception occur during the process execution, and it will handle the system exception as well. If there is a transaction item is get successful, it will move to the next transaction, that is increment transaction inside. It means it will increment our next state, I mean next transaction. Then business exception, if there is any business exception will occur, then it will log it and move to the next transaction by going to the get transaction data state, right? If you open this business rule exception, you are able to see, and if there is any system exception will happen, then it will retry the current transaction. It is workflow available here. It will close, if any application exception happen, it will close all the program and kill them if they fail to close, and take a screenshot at that moment, and the exception happened, it will go to the again initialization state where we will initialize our working environment and begin anew from the transaction that has been failed. If you open this workflow, you are able to see how it's handled, right? It will handle the retry mechanism if the transaction is get failed. So as I told you, it has total three outcomes: successful, business exception rule, and the system exception. So this will all these things is handled by the process transaction state, right? Then these are the few global variable available and data types available in the main XAML. If you see, there is a transactions item which is data type should be queue. Then it return in the workflow like get transaction data XAML, and its read in the workflow is process XAML, right? Then transaction data, a system error, then business rule exception, transaction number, config file. Data type of this config file is dictionary. Then retry number. This will be handled by the set transaction status XAML. Then transaction ID, then transaction field 1 and the field 2. So all these things will be written in the main XAML. If you open here, you are able to see these things, global variable, and this is very important to execute the process, right? And the last is end process. Once there is no any data or a successful, I mean there is no any data in the queue, then it will automatically end process, and it will close all the applications. So guys, hope you understand what is RE framework and what are the examples available in this RE framework, what are the advantages and what are the global variables available in this RE framework. So guys, if you feel this video is really helpful for you to make understand the basic concept of RE framework, please like, share and subscribe my channel and keep learning, keep sharing. Happy automation.